Hey, this is David Hayter. You may know me as the screenwriter of films like X-Men, X-Men 2, and Watchmen, but you probably know me best as the voice of Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid. And you're listening to Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast. Kept you waiting, huh?
All right, and welcome everyone to another episode of Hawaii's #1 podcast and the #1 podcast in the Pacific, the Kasanova Podcast. I'm your host, Mekel Kasanova, and I have the honor and privilege of having the one, the only Patrick Morgan, aka Bearded Tortuga, from Voodoo Ranger on the show. I hope I said that correctly.
You did. And
okay.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
How's it going, man?
Very good. Very good. You?
Good. And happy birthday as of this recording.
Oh, thank you very much.
yeah, man. Go ahead and plug your social media outlets and you know, Voodoo Ranger as well. Tell people where they can find you and where they can get the best IPA. Hey, I'm gonna say it because I love it.
Well, thank you. So me personally, which I guess I'm the community manager for Voodoo Ranger. And basically you can find me at Bearded Tortuga on pretty much any social. It's pretty much the easiest way to find me. And then Voodoo Ranger itself is at Voodoo Ranger. Cool thing about that is we don't actually talk too much about beer specifically. It's more or less just like making fun of beer. So if you don't want to see beer pictures and all that kind of junk, it's kind of the perfect one to follow.
Yeah, man. So it's wild because I'm nervous. I'm always nervous when I get a guest on. I was telling you this before we start recording, but man, it's truly an honor to have you on the show, man. And like let's go ahead and dive into it, man. Like you're a gamer, you love IPA, and how did you get into gaming? Like what was your that one gaming moment that happened that made it like, you know, I'm all in for gaming?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I can almost visually see it. I was in my friend's house in would have been 7th grade, and he got the new Final Fantasy, and we literally spent 4 days there. For some reason my parents let us just stay in the room for 4 days. Pizza rolls, pickles, Doritos, that whole thing in 7th grade. And I was hooked. Didn't let go at all, to the point where through college, I went to school and all that. And when I came out, I continued to try to be in the community. And at the time, the internet was really becoming social. But there was no place to talk to people in person. And I started playing EVE Online.
Ooh.
And from there, because it was such a small niche group at the time, I started setting up regional meetups, in-person meetups. I set up St. Louis, Chicago, and a handful of different like EVE Online meetups and events within the Midwest area. And it just kind of exploded from then. And I've basically done that since college. Even though I was a graphic designer and all that stuff, I just continued to be in that gaming space. So that was kind of how I jumped into gaming, and then all of a sudden head first into the actual like social aspect of it. And thus, as I worked in the beer industry as a graphic designer, well, I could go into the story of kind of how Voodoo Ranger also became in gaming as well.
Yeah.
If that's cool.
Yeah,
it was interesting. About 5 years ago, I worked in the craft brewing industry as a package designer. And we had a very big marketing meeting because at the time, craft beer was thought of as your dad's beer. It's like it's like what your dad drank, and you're like, ugh, Dang it. Even though I was not a dad. And we basically started talking about like, what are some places where people drink, but craft beer is not talking to them? And I like in school, I immediately raised my hand. I was like, hey, me and my friends, we drink craft beer and we play video games every single night. And it kind of sparked up a conversation. And we started looking at numbers and stuff. And we're like, holy shit, the gaming industry does actually like to drink and hang out together. It's pretty amazing. And it kind of struck a chord with the brewery. And we started kind of exploring that a little bit. We initially partnered with DreamHack to sponsor a CSGO stage, a CSGO open stage, and it's snowballed since then. We now have a content creator partnership program. We have Twitch channels. We sponsor and partner different conventions, whether it's PAX East, PAX West, DreamHack, RTX with Rooster Teeth, and even most major cities Twitch meetups we sponsor in any sort of way we can help with community.
Okay.
So yeah, it was interesting. I was a graphic designer at the time, and they said, well, I basically started streaming under Voodoo Ranger's name on Twitch, and I figured I'd ask for forgiveness later. And apparently they liked it. We started our own little podcast, a beer geek podcast on Twitch. And from there, it just, at a certain point, they said, hey, would you rather be a community manager for Voodoo Ranger in the gaming and fandom space? And I was like, fucking, yeah. So now I get to talk beer and games every day.
Awesome. And as far as like your role as like a community manager, like what's a day-to-day like for you?
I joke that I don't know. Every day is completely different. And when it comes to the industry and gaming, community managers have very, very different roles in different places. My general role, my day-to-days are influencer manager. So that would be if people need beer or questions, logos, just general things, making sure we're paying everybody on time and thinking of really cool ideas. Like at TwitchCon last year, we brought in all of our influencers and we hosted meetups for each one of them at different accounts and bars and restaurants in San Diego. And then on top of those things, it's the bigger picture stuff. So it's national and international sponsorships, both brand sponsorships, individuals, as well as eventing. And yeah, so when we do the big conventions, and then also media plays. So when we work with Rooster Teeth, and they do sponsored podcasts or anything like that. And even down to when a sales individual, let's say in Boston or London, is like, how the hell do I talk to people, or what accounts do I find where gaming and beer are involved? And it's my job to kind of direct them in those paths, how to talk. Because the thing is, a lot of people are gamers, but they don't identify as it. They know inside how to talk to gamers on a sales and personal level. It's just a matter of getting people to recognize that they too are a fan of something, right? And that is gaming as a whole.
Okay.
So day to day is very different.
No, it sounds like it's always a fun experience going into work. Like it's never routine, which is something I'd say that's got to be amazing. I used to work in IT, and boy, that was routine. I mean, there would be some variations here and there, but it's like it was so monotonous. Pay was great. I missed the pay. I definitely missed the pay.
I bet. But look at what you do now. You're creating something. That's amazing.
it's great, and and I love what I'm able to do, and I love the fact that my wife has allowed me to like pursue this. Like as of today, like literally, I've been doing this for 1 year,
Wow.
full
Well,
time,
congrats.
and it's thank you. Like it's amazing, but there are times when I'm like, I miss that paycheck, and it's like then when I'll think about that, my wife's like, "Do you miss the work?" I'm like, no, okay,
God, no.
You have a point.
Yeah. That's a nice. Every once a month, you're probably like, "Oh, I miss that paycheck," but
Yes,
then you come around to sitting and talking, and
yeah,
so much nicer.
It really is, and it's crazy how especially with, and I feel like you and I are probably around the same age range, but like it's looking at how technology and social media and the internet has just changed so rapidly over the last 10 to 15 years. I mean, hell, even 20 years.
Yep.
I remember in the 90s, like people bring up the internet and they're like, okay. And then the late 90s, it started to become slightly more commonplace. And then like as of now, like you can't even imagine living without the internet or social media. Like the concepts of like social media. I remember when we were all in the forums, like late 90s, early 2000s, and like now our way of interacting with people around the world is just social media and how it allows us to stay connected. Like it's so mind blowing that and when I think back at how I was back then, I never would have thought it would progress to where it is now. It's insane.
Never. It's made the world so small now. Which I find to be pretty cool. But do you remember? I remember. Man, you'd be playing. What was I playing? I was playing Hexen at the time, I think, on the PC, and I remember yelling at my mom because she picked up the telephone when I was downloading some weird mod. I was like, no. So that's how far back my internet experience goes, and AOL chat rooms. God help us.
Yeah, man, it is one of those things. Like, and for the younger people that may not understand it, because this may be a completely foreign concept to you guys. But yeah, back then we were on dial-up or DSL, and if you had any phone calls coming in, because we plug into the phone line, you're done. Oh man, I remember playing Quake Arena back in the day, and yeah, I had so many times either my brothers or my mom would pick up the phone, and I'm in the middle of a match. We're done. So
night's over.
It really is, and it's crazy to think like how even with gaming, you look at the sense of like online multiplayer. Even back then, it was almost exclusive to PC until like the Dreamcast slowly started making it more mainstream, and then Xbox took it to.
And even then, God, you had to hardwire, and you're lucky to get a lobby.
Yeah,
but we were talking on Discord the other day. There's a handful of us who we play various multiplayer games every week. And we're like, when was the last time you played a single player game? I was like, oh yeah, my backlog's huge. I should. It's almost solely online now.
And it's wild because when you think about it too, like for a lot of us, that's our social interaction right there. I mean, yes, young people, sometimes the older you get, the less you're going to be out hanging out with friends because you're going to have to work and you have to do everything else and then take care of yourself. And then you got your priorities at home. And then next thing you know, it's time to go to sleep and wake up and do it all over again.
You're not going out and partying at a bar. You're just making your own bar at your home now and hanging out with your friends online.
Yeah, definitely. No, like and when I look at gaming, like with its how online centric it is now, it's rare for me. Like the only time I actually touch single player games is if I have to do a review for it. Like if a company reaches out to me like, hey, can you review this game? I'm like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm playing either an MMO or a shooter or a fighting game online. Like that's where I'm at. And
what are you playing right now?
So right now, I'm playing Final Fantasy 14 online, and then I play. So I'm on Primal Hyperion. I am I'm working through Stormblood because I played the game on and off since 2013, but I committed to it this year.
Nice.
So I'm almost through Stormblood, and I'm almost at Stormblood. I got through Heavensward. Oh my god, this story is so good.
Oh, so good. I finished Heavensward. I'm halfway through Stormblood, and I backed out I think I've been off for about 6 months now.
Ooh.
Yeah, I need to jump back on the train, but God, I need more time.
It's a commitment though.
Right?
And it's like I'm playing that. I'm working with Activision, doing beta testing. So we had the PlayStation exclusive beta testing for Cold War, and I'm also working with them on their other beta. I can't say too much, but I'm working on that with them, and I'm going to be reviewing that. I'm also playing. What else am I playing right now? I play Street Fighter occasionally, but I'm more of a King of Fighters guy, or in Tekken. Ooh. So I play King of Fighters 13,
Tekken's 14, addicting,
and Tekken 7. Yeah, but I prefer Tekken Tag Tournament over Tekken 7. Sadly, a lot of people like, no, play 7. I'm like, nah, I prefer Tag Tournament. Tag Tournament has so much potential. I felt like they could have done more with it,
and the community is still there, so
yeah,
that helps.
Yeah. So that's currently what I'm playing, and then other than that, like whatever it is that companies will send to me, I think Sega and Square sent me a couple things. I'm like, cool, all right, I'm done with it. Let me get back to what I'm playing.
Nice.
But what about you? What all are you playing right now?
So I have a weekly meetup for Warzone. I think that's kind of an odd given. I was never a Call of Duty fan, except for Black Ops. But man, Warzone has me hooked a bit. And then
it's truly addicting.
It is. I also have a weekly group of friends from college that still go back and play Red Dead Redemption 2 online.
Ooh.
We just basically goof off for a couple hours. And then as far as like single player stuff, I'm currently making my way through Persona 5 and Code Vein. So I like Souls types games as well. Mm-hmm. So those are my jam.
Code Vein is really good. I was surprised at how good that game is. And it's like, and for anyone who's not familiar with Code Vein, it's basically anime Souls.
It totally is. And it's surprisingly deep for the story. I thought it was just gonna be real surface oriented, like anime, like, but no, I'm engrossed in it. I'm 3/4 of the way through, I think. I hope so. Mm-hmm. Feels like I've been on it for quite some time, but I'm ready to see the finale of the story. So
yeah, it's definitely cool. And then have you did you get the regular or the deluxe edition with the expansion that came
deluxe edition? So I think I have like 2 more bosses left and then the DLC.
Okay.
Cool. So that's where I'm at.
All right. And one of the other things I know you mentioned, you do podcasting as well. Like, have you? Like, I definitely want to dive into, the podcast that you're doing, but I wanted to know, like, have you done podcasting before, or is it something you just came about doing, or?
So how it kind of started was, me and a few people at work, when we kind of started exploring just being in games, we all had our own personal Twitch channels, and they were what they were. But when we started streaming under Voodoo Ranger, we kind of came together as a group. And it was just gaming and hanging out and having basically happy hours about 3 times a week. And what came about was there's 2 guys there who, one is they're both head brewers in different parts of the department. And they're hilarious. They're like silly dad joke dudes. But their knowledge about beer is out of this world. It's probably some of the top in the world. And they're like, we love playing video games, but like, what if we just got together and started like beer geeking out? I was like, sure. So every Tuesday we started basically filling about an hour every Tuesday afternoon. And it was these 2 brewers and me. And I'm kind of I know about beer, or I knew about beer at the time, but I'm still, compared to them, a dumb idiot when it comes to it. My knowledge compared to them is at a single percentage. I know enough to get. I know enough to be dangerous. So they kind of bring me in as that the third wheel. But we started talking about beer, drinking beer, and not necessarily just from the brewery standpoint. We didn't want it to be an ad. We wanted to actually geek out on the finer aspects of beer, whether it's trends, whether it's like how things are done. There's some shows where we get down to the nitty gritty where it's like this between this temperature variance when you're doing this and this. That's like, Jesus Christ. But if you are into beer in any manner, it runs the gamut. Is it cool if I plug it real quick?
Go for it.
So yeah, on Twitch at 3:30 on Tuesdays, 3:30 Mountain Time. On Tuesdays, we do a show called TIL. So Today I Learned, and it's our Beer Geek show, and it will literally run from, I think last week we talked about heat and what heat does in general. One week we actually went to a wing place and beer tasted beers along with wings, and then we told the wing shop to hurt us. And they did. And I normally eat kind of like, the hot show Hot Ones.
Yeah.
I'll do that whole challenge daily. I love extremely hot things. This wing shop killed us. In fact, one of the brewers had to leave the podcast halfway through. So the show runs a gamut from just like nitty gritty in the weeds of beer down to us just getting, for lack of a better term, sick on screen because we're eating extremely hot wings. But that's how the podcast started. And as far as like us being on screen, that really didn't start till, I think we've been doing this for 3 years now. I was never on screen or a voice of anything. I was always the quiet graphic designer just doing packaging. But when it comes to talking beer and games, there's just something there that allows a handful of us at the brewery to just go for it. We love it.
Nice. And he says every Tuesday, people can catch that.
Yeah, every Tuesday at 3:30 Mountain Time, and it will go. We actually stream it on Facebook and Twitch. There's a delay because obvious terms of use. So Twitch tends to be our more beer geek crowd, where they interact pretty heartily with us, which is really cool. But yeah, we usually go for about half hour, depending on what the subject is, and then after that, we usually play video games with the community, and also again start to talk beer, drink beer. But we'll play golf with your friends with the community. We'll bring in our influencers and play. What did we play last week? Oh, we played Fall Guys with some of our influencers in our influencer program. And so it runs the gamut. But yeah, after we talk beer for about an hour, then we play video games with community coworkers for another couple hours.
Nice. And definitely one of the things like I wanted to say is like I have a marketing background, and the way you guys at Voodoo Ranger market your product is so brilliant. And the reason I'm saying it's brilliant, I'm not trying to kiss your ass, and it's indirectly I am. But the way I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, when I see people like posting about Voodoo Ranger, like that's actually what got me. I was like, man, I need to try this beer. Like I need to, because it's like you look at other beer companies, and no shade to them, but it's so apparent that they're just pushing their product. Yeah, like it's so just in your face. But
oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
We're really lucky in that the culture of the brewery and of the brand Voodoo Ranger, we're really lucky that they kind of let us do what we want in a genuine way. And the very first thing when it comes to this brand that we have always pushed is community first. Beer can always come later. And so even on our Twitch channel, which by the way is Voodoo Ranger official, even on there, every single thing we do is trying to bring the community in to play with us or support them in some way. So when we say community first, I'll try to give a good example. At PAX East in Boston this year, we've been in talks with Penny Arcade and PAX for quite some time, mainly because as a brewery, we are gamers. We have a WoW raid group that's been going on since WoW Vanilla. We have a semi-pro Halo player that works as in marketing. Like, we have a handful of cosplayers that actually work for us and everything. So we're in this space already, and we're like, well, we want to talk to us the way we would want to be talked to, right? And so, like I said, community first. And so at PAX East in Boston, something we did was we were able and graced to be the first alcohol sponsor at a PAX ever.
Wow.
And that's because we've been playing with the PAX community for about 2 or 3 years. We have been hosting meetups outside of their conventions for their communities. So we would reach out to, whether it's their Dungeons and Dragons community or it's their board game community or Smash community, we would reach out to those individuals and be like, hey, we know you guys kind of like meet up at a park or in the convention, whatever. I go, what would you say if we could give you a space at a restaurant? We'll provide the food, we'll provide the drink, we'll provide entertainment if they wanted, stuff like that, all on us, just so that you guys can get together. And no charge to them. Obviously, we don't want that. But like, also, we're not sitting there plugging Voodoo either. We're literally there just to support them and be like, here's a space, a safe space for you guys to meet up, and it's all yours. And that's kind of how it started. And then when we at Boston and PAX East, when they allowed us to have a pub on the floor, we called it the Relax and Recharge Lounge. The very first thing we did was like, what can we provide that a convention does not get? And so one of the things that, like, I've been a convention goer since probably, I think my first convention I went to was in 3rd grade. It was a Star Trek convention. And something that I've always, right? God, they're so interesting.
They are.
Something that I've always been not necessarily annoyed with, but something that I've always seen at a convention is the mass amount of people that just sit around the halls charging their phones.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no place. There's no place for that. Like, everyone's just sitting on a hard floor, annoying. And so we basically built this pub with the idea of these long family style tables. And each one of those tables had, I think, 50 to 100 phone chargers on them, plugins. And it was this massive area with long tables. And we invited people to come charge their phone. They don't have to drink. They can just come in and charge their phone. And then we had D&D days where the long tables are like there for people to play D&D with their community. And just basically open it up for people to just lounge and recharge their phones, recharge their laptops, their cameras, whatever they needed. There was a bar there in the back. We had a little bit of music playing. And then on top of that, PAX has an area called the indie, what they call it? The indie game alley type thing. And to get in, that's pretty hard for an indie game. I think they have to like pay, and they only get a certain amount of time during the weekend. And so we partnered up with a handful of independent game developers, and we invited them into our space to showcase their games in every so corner of that bar. And so they were allowed, like, they then had a space that they could have all weekend, 24/7, to showcase their game and bring in their community. They could even sell merch, whatever they wanted to do in that space. It was theirs. And so that is always something that we always put forward very first, is that anything we can do to support the community and the goers of that event is the first and foremost thing we'll do. And then second is beer. Sure, can we bring beer in? That's awesome. How much can we bring? Blah, 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 blah. that is the second place. It's always at community first. Even when we did TwitchCon, instead of taking, so I don't know if you guys know, but TwitchCon's very expensive to sponsor and partner. But what we did, and no offense to TwitchCon, we took all that money that we would have sponsored the actual convention with, and we spent it on bringing our influencer program individuals to TwitchCon. We took care of their flights, we took care of their hotel, we took care of their food, and then we also gave them. We had 6 different bars and restaurants for them to choose from, and they could house their meetup there at any given time during the weekend. So whether they had 10 people come or 100 people come, we had a place for them to do a community meetup for their community.
Nice.
And then again, beer second. So we know that if we are able to support a content creator that you love in a genuine, authentic way, and not just do a logo play. I hate logo plays. I will never throw money at a logo play. But as long as we can support someone or something that you love in a genuine manner when it comes to like actually physically supporting it, we will always do that first. And then cool, if you like the beer, that's great. But it's always first and foremost community.
No, and that's very critical to, expanding the brand, and it's very effective marketing. And that's what I'm saying. Like when I go to the website and I go to the social media outlets for Voodoo Ranger, I love the avatar. I love the avatar. I really want to dive into like how you guys came up with that. But
totally.
It's the marketing is so apparent that, like you said, community first, beer second, because the beer is never right in your face. Like if you were to go, and I've seen so many other beer companies that are trying so hard to get into the gaming sphere, and they can't shake that beer first. And maybe because it works with them being in other sports or genres. Yeah. But I feel like they don't understand gaming culture and gamers and content creators, and how you have to shift it, because you can't just throw the beer like, okay, here's this, here's the beer, we're sponsoring this. Okay, that's cool, but what else is there besides it?
And I think that's the tough part too, is I think we've been given leeway to do that. I don't have to show like a KPI. I don't have to show, any of that kind of stuff. Whereas I think a lot of these companies, they have to show a direct result with every single thing they do. We're lucky that the brewery that I work for allows us to take those chances. And it shows. And you know what, like the internet and gaming fandom world, whether it's convention goers or esports, whatever, we've been around the internet. We know how things work. We can see it from a mile away. Yeah. And you know what? As a marketer who, to get truthful here, there's part of marketing in the marketing world that I despise. Yeah. And this kind of marketing makes me feel good. Makes us feel good, because it actually feels like we're supporting something that is creating, and not just like throw some money out there, hope to God you buy something. Let's get clicks in, let's get purchases in. No, like this feels like I'm part of the community that I mean I already am, but like I'm genuinely trying to provide something for the community that I am a part of. Yeah. And it makes this kind of marketing, which I hope to God more companies do down the road or see the value in it, start to do. It takes it. You need a longer runway, and I think that's the reason a lot don't do it.
Yeah. No, and it's like I tell you, like a lot of companies, because I've worked for, before I went into IT, I did marketing for various companies from Microsoft and more, and it there really is not that much leeway. Like a lot of these companies, and for the audience, like this is some behind the scenes stuff here.
Totally.
They want immediate numbers, like
Yep.
immediate response. Your KPI has to be this. You have to hit this metric. You have to, within this time span of so many hours or so many days or weeks or month, if you're even lucky to get months, you have to hit this metric. And it's a very stressful, incredibly stressful environment.
Definitely.
It can be toxic too.
And I think when it comes to the gaming market in general, I think that's why you'll see a lot of companies jump in and jump out, and then come back again, trying to figure it out. Is that they don't see those payoffs right away, which it's hard to track in this market, especially when, for instance, mine, like I have a physical thing, right? However, working with content creators, and let's say that content creator does a sponsored Twitch stream, right? I can't immediately just be like, cool, I see an uptick in sales as that stream's going on. Like, you can't do that. And so you have to accept some of those variables. I feel I don't think I could work for another marketing department at this point because of what we've been provided to kind of given, I guess, to do with this. But yeah, I love marketing. I at the same point despise it, and I think that's something that hopefully is showing in Voodoo Ranger. So you'll see a lot of things where breweries, or even just, let's say, PC accessories. I don't want to call out any names, but you look at their Instagram or whatnot, and it's just photo after photo of the thing, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's just beer after beer or mouse after mouse or anything like that. We've been given the go-ahead to never post a beer shot on our Instagram, to be different. Like, and also working in the industry, I don't want to see that anymore. I see enough of it daily. So we've been given the leeway to have fun, and I think that hopefully speaks within the brand, both on our socials, and even down to our coworkers who speak about it online. So, yeah.
No, and that marketing approach, that's something, that I utilize for the podcast. And I've had other content creators tell me, they're like, oh, you need to put yourself in every single picture where, focus it on you and then your guests. And I'm like, no, because then from a perception, public perception, it's like you're trying to make yourself the center focus. And not your guest. And it's funny. I have so many armchair analysts to give me so much advice. It's amazing. Like, you should do this, and this. And I'm like, okay. How's that working for you? Oh, okay. So it's one of those situations. So I had to throw some shade there. It's one of those situations where like I make it a focus. Like, I want my guests to be front and center. Like, for the promo for the one for this episode for you, you're going to be front and center. You're going to be the focus. Every other guest, they are the focus. And it's like, it's a form of branding.
Yeah.
And totally. So many people don't get it. And I especially see it with content creators, right?
Yes.
I see like how they have to make sure they're putting certain things in certain places. I'm like, okay, for the audience, here's an example. All right, my wife and I, we work with Techni Sport. You'll see it in the background here. Here's the Techni Sport chair. I'm not gonna make sure that it's right here in your face.
Yep.
I'm wearing the Logitech headphones. I work with them. I'm wearing it. I work with Rode. I have the mic here. I'm not going to be plugging it like in your face. It's just going to be sitting there because it's subtle suggested marketing.
Yep.
It's right there. You see
it.
it.
And that helps like your idea and theme that you want to more or less educate individuals especially there, about different industries and how they work, whether it's in gaming or marketing, whatever, that your focus is on that. And so that helps actually promote that idea even more, I think. So I think that's great. I think that's a great angle. I love it.
Yeah. So, you work with a lot of content creators. What are some of the fun and challenging aspects of it?
Cool.
That you can dive into without getting
that
in
I
trouble.
can say. No, absolutely love we don't have a huge pool of content creators at the moment. We hope to every year double that is the idea. So currently right now we have, I'll get into, I won't hold anything
Feel
back,
free.
but like we have about 35 paid partners. They run the gamut from Twitch comedians all the way to just YouTube personalities, even some just Instagram content creators. For the most part, they're all live stream content creators. Every one of them dabbles within gaming at some aspect. Most of them, that's their entirety. So as far as kind of just dealing with them and day-to-days, they are pretty much like a family. I know their kids. I know their spouses. When we do meetups at conventions, we invite them and we have big dinners together. And some of them we tend to try. We try not to lose any content creators year to year. So we've just kind of grown. So our initial ones that we started with are still with us. And so that relationship grows even further and even deeper. And it's not just about their content anymore. It's about having that deep relationship. So some of the things that are like amazing is that deep relationship that you start to gain. I one-on-one with them. Like when I say, hey, we'd like to work with you, that's like when Voodoo Ranger says, hey, we want to work with you, that's me. And when we send beer out monthly or whatever, that's me physically packaging up beer and sending it out. And just even commenting of like, oh, did you get this thing, back and forth, and even on Twitter or whatnot. But it's me. So that relationship gets so much deeper than I think some other content creator programs might have. But at the same time, you also see everything. But again, coming back to that like deep relationship, we've had a few influencers who might have said some questionable things on social, whether it's Twitter, and I will literally get a text message 5 minutes after that thing stated and be like, I said something and it kind of blew up. Are we cool? And I'm like, well, yeah, we're cool. Like, I mean, we work with you for a reason. We work with you for your community, your personality, your energy. Like, we believe in you. Now, mind you, if some things come up that come to legal questionality, we'll have something to say. But like in general, like we're partnered with these people because of who they are. What their community is like, their engagement and stuff. So, all of us have said some off things online, and we should be pulled to the fore on it. But like, it's really nice to know that when our influencers feel as though they have maybe passed the line or something like that, they immediately contact us. And that comes again to that deep relationship that we're able to grow. Then there's also a thing too, where for the most part, I think most community managers will agree with this. 90% of the individuals you work with are almost hands off once you kind of get things rolling. But then you always have, as all of us do, the ones that you just have to keep up on, right? Yeah. Make sure they're doing obligations that are contractual or whatever. But yeah, I can't think of any like insane ones, but it was really cool to see at TwitchCon everyone's meetups and see the physical communities with them, and see just our programs like interaction with them. It was just really cool. And to know that like, man, these are the right people to work with. And I just can't say enough good things about them. I think every company should have a content creator program, whether it's YouTube, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, Twitch, whatever. Sad, sorry to see a Mixer, but like, I think every company should have some program, whether it's small, whether it's 3 people, I don't know, but like, it's a way to get out there and connect to a community in a different way that you would never see just by working with firms to get like contracts with influencers and stuff like that. Like, have your own influencer program. It's light years above anything else you'll learn when it comes to dealing with a community.
Yeah. And, you know, with various companies, like I have a few partnerships that, you know, I currently have. You know, Aver Media is one. Shout out to them, which is very, very similar in the sense of it's very community oriented. And I've found in my years of being a content creator and working with various organizations and companies, it's very rare that they have that hands-off approach or that community focused aspect. Many of them are very metric centric. I've even, and this kind of goes into a deeper conversation I meant to have with another content creator. My show last week before last, whenever is with Backyardists. We were talking about it offline about how a lot of and this is kind of like it's interesting because it's a play on terminology where a lot of companies, when they say, "Oh, we're gonna partner with you or we're gonna sponsor you," there's a difference between the companies that do that, where you're as a creator, you're actually working with them. You know, they're providing product. You provide whatever your contractual obligations are, versus the ones that say, "Oh yeah, we're sponsoring you, but here's your discount code to buy our product."
Oh,
like.
I have a rough time with those. There's so many times I want to speak out about that on social media, but I also have to like rein back my I can't stand the code and you get a percentage route. I feel like it's a very cheap route for a company to take. Mind you, if you're an individual who wants to take one of those, check your percentages. You know, see if it's genuinely worth your time. Let's say you're plugging that brand. Let's say you're plugging that brand 6 times a week for equivalent of an hour every day. So it's 6 hours. Are you getting paid 6 hours worth of work for that week? Like, genuinely check those percentages, those numbers, and what's coming back to you. Because otherwise that brand is getting a lot of free exposure. And so, yes, I have a lot to say about that, but I also don't want to go a little too deep on that. But yeah, I just never like to see a content creator get screwed over when it comes to a partnership or a brand deal like that. And I don't actually know the percentages that a lot of people get. I know the larger you are, the better it is, stuff like that. But I truly don't believe that anyone's actually getting paid enough for the amount of time that is plugged.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too, where, I will say this offline, but I'll dance, I'll dance around it here. There's a certain new coffee company that has popped up, and they reached out to several content creators and influencers, and a lot of people are sharing. You know, they're putting it in their bio on Twitter and whatnot. They're sponsored by this company, and I was one of the people that they initially reached out to. And I was initially on board until I was like, wait, you're giving me a code. You're saying you're sponsoring me, but I have to buy your coffee. I don't know if your coffee is good.
Yep.
But you want me to buy it with a 10% discount. I think for anyone who hears or sees this, you probably know what company, especially if you're a content creator, you know what company I'm talking about. But yeah, I see very prominent people are saying that they're sponsored by this company, and I'm like, no shade to the company. Maybe they have good coffee, but my interactions with them, I was like, wait, so you want me to plug your coffee literally 4 to 5 times a week on all my outlets, multiple times in my streams?
Oh my God, that's a lot of plugging too.
Right?
Like even our creators, we only ask them to do X amount per month. So whether it's like one sponsored live stream a month and 2 Twitter posts a month. So it's not like we're, I don't want to ask too much of their time because I want to make it worth it to them too. We pay our partners, and not just a percentage of a code or anything like that. In fact, they don't have codes. Some of them do. The first ones do a Drizzly code. But yeah, I think the thing is that like when individuals get approached, and it is a code aspect of the sponsorship, people want clout, right? They want when they're starting up to show that someone is willing to invest in them. And that's awesome. I think that's you want that. That's how you kind of grow your community, like not necessarily community, but your clout among a way to get more sponsors, and show that you've done it. And I see that aspect. But again, I never want to see a creator get screwed over. And I'm afraid that some of those, I just don't want to see a creator get screwed over for their time.
Yeah. And especially in doing this full time, like a lot of people have this idea that, oh, you're a content creator, you have all the time in the world to make content. I'm like, you know how scheduled out my day is. I'm like,
it's surprising, right?
It's really mind blowing. And you'll get the people who don't understand content creation. The first thing they'll say is, oh, you're just playing video games all day, or you're just doing this, or you're just talking to a microphone. I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of hats you wear. You are your own CPA. You are your own publicist, PR person, on-screen personality, scenario writer, editor. Like you wear a lot of hats, and when you're working with companies that, it's my hopes that a lot more creators come to understand their worth, their value. You're worth more than just a code.
Yep. You'll see that in artists too. Devaluing their work and charging less than an hour. So I like, and luckily I come from freelance graphic design illustrator world. So like I I feel like that helps in the idea that like when we work with a content creator or talking to content creators to show that they are a valuable asset, and do not devalue yourself. Because if you do devalue yourself, you're devaluing every single creator out there. That comes behind you or whatever. Kind of like I joke that like when I was freelance illustrating, you charge X amount an hour. I'm like, oh crap, I didn't get that job. I must be charging too much. I'll drop my hourly rate. You drop your hourly rate, then the next person that comes along behind you that is also going to work that job or that company works with, they're going to want that price or lower next time. And so as long as you're bringing your numbers down, you're bringing the industry down as well, when it comes to cost and value of yourself.
Yep, definitely. It's an interesting dynamic that I really hope more content creators and artists and freelancers understand. Like when just value your time, your effort, and understand that. You know what? We'll go into that offline. There's a lot I have to say because I see so much of it, man. It's
same.
It's wild. And here's another aspect. I feel like, and I understand content creators. It's entrepreneurship, but it's also relatively new, I guess, within the niche of working with companies and video gaming tech, whatever, because that's effectively new. Like before it was we go with these established companies or brands to promote and review or showcase our products. And now it's like, if you do well on Twitch or YouTube or podcasting, whatever, you'll have opportunities coming your way.
Yeah.
One of the things I see, and maybe it's just because one, I'm very cautious of certain things that I tweet or how my online social media presence is, because I treat my social media like a digital portfolio of work.
Totally.
And a representation of myself. I see a lot of content creators that say some very spicy things.
Yes.
And I'm over here looking, and I think it's the marketing hats on first. And I'm like, did that brain to mouth to thumb filter, did that kick in before you hit send or tweet or post? Because a lot of it, I'm like,
I basically every single thing I type when it comes to Twitter, Instagram, stuff like that, because of being a community manager for Voodoo Ranger, I basically wear the hat of, okay, I'm not Voodoo Ranger, at least my socials aren't, but like I am a branch of it, a branch off of it. I'm a main conduit for a lot of that contact. I'm like, whatever I write, that's going to sit on the brand that I'm working with.
Yeah.
And like every single thing that I write, I'm like, okay, what can come back to me? Is it negative? And is it putting anyone or a group down? Like I go off of this checklist to make sure, and I'm not even a content creator influencer, but like, I feel like there should be a checklist before you write something.
Yes.
And especially some streamers, like they go in for that drama. I get it. Some people want that, like under the idea that any attention's good attention, I guess. But good God, that's going to bite you in the ass later on down the road.
Yeah. And it's like the thing, I feel like a lot of people don't understand, whatever you post on the internet is there. It's never going away. It will in some way come back and bite you in the ass. And it's just, I have so many content creator friends that do stuff like this, and I'm like, please think before you hit that tweet or you hit
I always
post.
think of it like this, like somebody out there screen capturing everything immediately. Think of it that way. And hopefully and it's okay to write some like spicy things on occasion. But like, man, if you go to demean anything, just remember that if you do want to become a content creator, brands are watching that. Even as myself, when I look at creators that we want to work with, I look at the first and foremost thing I look at is engagement between creator and community. Whether it's high. If a creator is just not engaging with community, but they have tons of numbers, like, but like, also I'm looking back at VODs from like last year. I'm seeing the interaction last year. I'm looking at your Twitter feed and I'm looking at replies, not just what you're posting. I'm looking at replies too. And like, if you're sitting there and being unbelievably toxic in the replies, but, oh, your posts are really nice and jovial, like there's a disconnect there between you and your community. And so just know that brands do watch that. We aren't just like seeing the ribbon wrapped stuff that goes on YouTube or Twitch. There are individuals at most of these companies like me who sit there and, let's say Tuesday, there's someone I'm interested in working with. What am I going to do on Tuesday? My Tuesday is dedicated to you now. And I'm going to watch your stuff. I'm going to watch what you've recently done. And I'm going to watch what you did last year. and like kind of watch how their engagement is throughout a chunk of time.
Mhm.
Mind you, I won't go back 10 years. That's a little
Mhm.
ridiculous. There is a point where you have to give leeway to someone was young, they said something dumb, they
Mhm.
should probably have deleted it. But at the same time, you have to watch current stuff to make sure that that young and dumb learned.
Yeah.
And companies watch that stuff. So just as any creators watching this, just know that like we don't see everything, but we do see a timeline of what is posted. And when someone wants to work with you, they do their due diligence and they do see it.
Yeah. And it's I I have so many thoughts on this. So many. I'm on the same wavelength as you. Okay, so I'll give an example for the audience. Like, as you guys know, I work with a lot of video game companies, reviewing games, streaming games, sponsor streams, and stuff like that. So I frequently get content creators that reach out to me, well, smaller, like in the sense of, okay, we use YouTube as a metric. I've got 11,000 subs. I'm not a huge YouTuber. Twitch, I've got 1,600. I'm not a huge Twitch streamer, but I'm very connected to the industry. I know how to foster an audience. I have a very close knit community that we treat each other like a family. And I'll have other content creators. They'll be like, how are you able to work with this company at your size? How are you able to do this? How are you able to do that? Well, one, I'm not controversial. Like, that's one. They don't have to feel like, oh God, I'm taking a huge risk if I work with this person. I have, like, when it comes to like reviewing products, I know content creators, both bigger and smaller, they'll be like, trying to see, do I have an example of a game nearby? No, I don't. But okay, we'll just use this. Be like, you know what? This product here, this is absolute gutter trash. This is terrible. Don't waste your money. It's a quick cash grab. The company is just greedy. They'll tag the company, do this, and this.
Yep.
And I'll look at it. I'm like, why are you doing that?
There's a way to do it in constructive criticism.
Exactly. Yep. Like, if I don't like something, I know how to say, hey, it may not be for me. It wasn't for me. You may like it, but this is how I feel about it. These are some areas it could improve upon. Yep. There's a way to say something's not for you without being disrespectful. And these people, so many like to say like, oh, I'm just being real. I'm just being honest. Well, there's a way to be real and honest without being an asshole.
Exactly.
And without damaging your brand and any opportunity to work with other companies, because as huge as these industries are, the people who actually have the power and influence is a very small, tight-knit community.
It is. And there's that fine line too. Like there's that fine line of like being snarky, and being entertaining, yet being informative. And you'll see that the content creators that do really well on YouTube, whether it's a unboxing or tech show or even just game reviews and stuff like that, they got that fine line perfectly. And it's an art form in itself. But they're the ones that do really well. The ones that are like to a point of being toxic, they do well in a negative manner, and they are few and far between. The ones that do well and they have that like that toxic drama alert kind of go there. And there's some that do really well, but like the ones that like consistently do well and aren't going to basically have to bail out in a couple of years, they're the ones that skirt, and it's an art form of that fine line of being like entertaining, snarky, or whatever, but being informative and constructive. Like even ours, like if we have a new beer coming out and you don't like it, perfect. Let me know. Like I need to know these things because, if you don't like it, then there's other people that don't like it too. And like, why is that? And so we learn as well. So companies want that feedback, but they also don't want that feedback in a manner that like drives everyone away, and not to say like if it is utter trash, there's a way to state that without losing that clout with businesses and brands.
Yeah.
Again, it's a fine line. It's an art form. And that's how some do so well. They got that on lock.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, there's an art to it. There's definitely an art to it. And
that's why I'm not an influencer.
Oh man, it's a fine line to walk, and sometimes I'll admit, like it's not very easy. Like there's products that I've gotten or I've used them, or I've played a game or such and such, and I'm like, man, this is not good. But let me give some feedback to the company. And a lot of times I'll preface the company first. Like I'll contact whoever I'm working with.
That's
first.
The way to do it. Yeah.
And it's just like, hey, I'm going to be honest. I didn't like this, and this of it. It has potential, but this needs to go back to the drawing board for this, and this, in my opinion. But
and God, companies love that stuff.
Yeah.
They do. I mean, like, otherwise, what's a company going to do? Like, run a basically test kitchen style thing and be like, please, what did you think of this thing? Like, they want it out there. They want like real reactions and constructive criticism. But they also don't want to be like shit on either. They're people. They made this product, Yeah. But yeah.
So one of the things I definitely want to dive into was like the avatar for Voodoo Ranger. Like, how did you guys come up with that? Because it is so freaking epic. I love it.
So a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, we had a beer just called Ranger. The name for that was because we call our sales force out in the field Rangers. Because they're out there on their lonesome. They're doing the dirty work. And we call them Rangers. And so when we first made an IPA, we're like, oh man, the Rangers, they've always requested that we make an IPA. And we're like, because that's what people are really starting to drink. So this was I'd say a long time ago. 10 years ago. I don't know. So we made the beer Ranger. And at the time, it was kind of like the definition of an IPA. And IPAs in general, the style of beer is very organic. IPAs have changed over time. The trends, it's a beer that hits trends, whether it's like, I want my IPA to be sweet now, and like all IPAs are sweet. Or I want my IPA to be like extremely hoppy and dry, and like that's the trend this year. And so that beer style is just like a wave. And as time changed, that beer kind of became old. And classic West Coast IPA. And so we needed to grow with the times because, truth be told, a lot of people still request it. And every single time they request it, all I want to say is like, well, you know what? You didn't buy it when it was out anymore. So that's why it's not around. But what happened was, with IPAs making those big different swinging trend changes year to year, we're like, well, we can't change one single beer every year. That's just like, that's going to like confuse people. And so we're like, well, what if we made Ranger a, for lack of a better term, umbrella brand, where we could have Ranger, and then underneath it we have X amount of beers, whether it is that West Coast dry IPA or it is that juicy, hazy East Coast kind of like thing, or whether it's a sessionable, almost like a general, what you would know as like a Coors Banquet kind of beer. Like, what can we do so that we can also adjust with those trends and changes as drinkers continue?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like, well, when it came to the name Ranger, we always kind of poked fun that our Rangers are hilarious, by the way. I
Mm-hmm.
think most of them are stand-up comedians. And so we kind of also wanted to like bring in that like jovial, joking, snarky, sarcastic aspect of who our Rangers were.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, well, Ranger itself was kind of a character, our sales force. That's who they were. And we're like, well, let's continue that. And so we kind of explored like almost making a brand a character, and
Mm-hmm.
it evolved into what Voodoo Ranger is now, which is a character.
Mm-hmm.
It is a skeleton who likes to wear cool clothes and changes clothes per brand. But as you can see, like on our social and stuff, pokes fun at beer, pokes fun at the internet, pokes fun at like pop culture. And so we like to, it's an umbrella brand basically
Mm-hmm.
that we're allowed to have a character that we can voice through, in essence.
Mm-hmm.
We don't like to say that Voodoo Ranger has an actual voice, but it definitely does. But someone who we can just play with, we can actually have fun with, instead of it just being like a lager and you're like, drink this lager, it's got such and such a hops and it's, you know, brewed at such and such a elevation, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, we're drinking beer, we're having a party, and we're driving DeLoreans. Like, that's what I would want to do, and that's what we're going to do. And thus the reason Voodoo Ranger came about. The skeleton aspect was more or less an exploration in what a character could be. And for some odd reason, when we were looking at it, we're like, that skeleton looks cool. So there's no real like deep dive into like how the character was created, but like it's more or less like, dang, that's fun.
Yeah.
Pretty cool looking. All right, I think we can go with this. And thus Voodoo Ranger kind of started. So basically we basically get to dress up the skeleton to the Ranger up in every different beer that we make. And then we have rotators, which gives us even more fun because then we can like put them in space or have them in Karate Kid in a DeLorean. And in fact, we had a program in Chicago where people who ordered Voodoo Ranger through Drizzly got their beer delivered, their 1985 beer, which is a rotator, delivered in a DeLorean. And so like we're able to do these like weird, dumb, kind of like silly things. And genuinely, it just makes your job so much more fun. Like, sit there and be like, oh, this dry hopped, aged, and whatever, when you could be like, hey, what could we do? The beer's coming out called 1985. What do we remember about 1985? Oh, I remember Back to the Future. Shit, let's drive a DeLorean. You're like, all right. So basically, that's the gist of how he came about and why he is the way he is. A dead skeleton, basically.
Nice. And one of the other things that you guys have, which is super awesome, is Boutique by Voodoo Ranger.
Oh,
I
nice.
love it. It's so I don't see other companies doing this, and so
the way
awesome.
that came about was very organic. I hate the word organic. That seems like a very big business term. But what happened was when we were doing our Instagram posts and whatnot, we're like, I think one of the things Star Wars was coming out. It was last year. Which one came out? Yeah, last year.
Yeah, last year.
And we're like, oh my god, how funny it would be if we photoshopped like a Voodoo Ranger action figure in an old school Star Wars like seal pack, you know, like the old action figure packs. And so we did. We photoshopped it in because it'd be hilarious and funny. And I kid you not, that post hit so hard with everyone being like, where can I buy it? Where is that? I want to buy it. I want to buy it. I want to buy it. And we're like, oh, we need to create a space. Because like we started making that stuff. We're like, what do you remember in 1985? Well, I carried my metal lunchbox that had like Star Trek things on it. And you're like, okay, well, and we'd Photoshop one of those, and then just again it would blow up, and people would be like, I want a Voodoo Ranger lunchbox. We're like, well, maybe we start making these things for real. So we started making them. So we, at this point, so Vootique, which is VOOTIQUE.com, obviously. We now will do small runs where we make actually action figures.
Ooh, you have
I have one out of pack and in pack, but
awesome.
And so we actually make these things now. So even here, hold on.
Oh, no worries.
Even our lunchbox.
Oh, so, man. That takes me back. I love it.
It's even got the old school metal handle. But yeah, it's so basically we get to have fun and just make the stuff that we dream about.
Mm-hmm.
And even just like, I mean, there's just shirts and stickers there too. But it allows us, I think at one point before the boutique really took off, we had bobbleheads. Just a bunch of like random stuff that's like rare, cool. We do small runs, so it is rare. We made a Voodoo Ranger Cobra Kai jacket. We only have 50 of them, sold out within 48 hours.
Wow.
But again, it allows us to actually have fun, which thank God.
Oh man. Winding down to the last couple of questions.
Yeah.
Definitely want to be respectful of your time.
No worries.
Man. So the slogan, how to live or live rangerously, where did that come from? I love it.
It's a little bit of a mix of a few things. So the brewery as a whole has CVBs, kind of words to live by. And a lot of those happen to do with like live your best life, whether it's a work-life balance, whether it's every single thing you do should be for the greater good, both community and environment. And so we're kind of like, how can we take those things that we live by as a company and put them in the voice of Voodoo? And the whole idea of like living dangerously, which I don't know if he really lives dangerously or if it's more sarcastic, but it's this whole idea of like, you know what, like just live it to the way you want, whether it's just going out skydiving, it's having a beer, it's laying on the grass reading a book, it's making snarky comments on the internet, pop culture, watching Top Gun, whatever. Like, do your thing. It doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. So go out and live rangerously. Mind you, have a beer, sure. But it's more of a slogan to speak with how we treat the brand, I think, a little bit more than just a mindset to put out to the community. As you can see with like the boutique, and we're just like, oh shit, action figures popped up on Instagram and they loved it. Like, okay, let's do it. Like, so it's more of that. It's more of the mindset of the brand than anything. And so I think that's kind of is an evolution from just our general practices at work into who we know as Voodoo Ranger.
Okay. And one of the things I want to ask as well is like, how surreal was it with Elon Musk making a tweet with which one was it? He did the Starship IPA. Yeah. How surreal was that?
Oh man. So I woke up in the morning. I wake up too early and I saw it, immediately messaged my boss, and he's like, we already saw it, we're on it. Like, the thing is, Elon Musk is such a divisive character.
Yeah.
And so you have to walk that very fine line of interacting with it and not interacting with it, or promoting it, not promoting it. Cause it's one of those things that's definitely love-hate. individual company.
Mm-hmm.
However, just for the sole aspect of like the space program and Elon Musk and Starship IPA, it was too much of a perfect circle right there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was starstruck at the moment. Again, on the internet, as we know, don't read the comments below. but it was outstanding. It definitely, I think, thanks, Elon Musk. I appreciate it. But it was a all hands on deck scramble to be like, what do we do with this? I don't know. And I think we skirted that line pretty well. But yeah, good Lord, that whole day was just a slight heart racing moment of, wait, what? But all in all, very cool. The tough part was he posted out Starship IPA, and that was a week after it was technically off the shelves.
Oh wow!
And so we were like, oh, he must have got somewhat of the last batches, because at that point because Starship IPA was a rotator. We have they're basically seasonal beers, but we rotate them in when we want to because live Rangerously. And so 1985 was already starting to go on the shelves. So we were like, oh man, he just posted a beer amongst his whole community, which is ridiculously large, and you can't find it. So double-edged sword there.
Oh man. So as far as like the various IPAs that you guys provide, as far as like flavors,
yeah.
What is, I know mine's is 1985. I absolutely love it.
Same.
And it's
in fact,
hard.
That's my end of the day beer, right? Oh Jesus. Yeah.
What's and here's the thing too, like for anyone who's a beer lover, I'm gonna say this, like each beer from Voodoo Ranger all taste differently. They all taste differently.
Yep. We do try to run the gamut so that if you're an IPA lover, you're gonna find something you like. But if you're like, I hate IPAs, hopefully there's something there that will still be either an entry into IPAs or something that's very much more on the scale of what someone's used to.
Yeah. So that being said, I guess for the audience at this point, if an hour and 21 minutes into this, you're not convinced yet, in your own words, what would you, if you were to describe Voodoo Ranger to people and why they should try it and look into the company as well, what would you say?
Oh man,
there's a lot there.
Oddly enough, over the years, I've never been asked something like that. I think, you know what, as far as beer goes, the cool thing is that we do run the gamut in flavors or styles, if, you know, within IPAs. So there's always going to be something I think everyone can find that they like. If they don't, that's okay. You know, we're here making IPAs, and if you're willing to give it a try, there should be something there anyone can like. But we just like to have fun. So hopefully when you do go to the shelves, there's something there that you can find that's fun, whether we're poking fun at Karate Kid or, you know, we're sending beer into space. Like there's other aspects to what we do that I think people can kind of jump onto. And you know what? If IPAs aren't your thing and you're definitely still like no to Voodoo Ranger, it's still pretty fun to jump on the ride and like see what we're talking about, because we don't just talk about beer. We'll make fun of Elon Musk. But then the brewery as a whole, New Belgium Brewing, we have a whole bunch of other things, whether it's a lager, an ale, an amber, black lager, like we triples, anything. We run the gamut. So there is going to be something there for if you're a beer lover, you're going to like, or even if you're someone who just drinks Coors or, you know, Bud, any of those. There is something within the portfolio that I think pretty much every beer lover would like. So yeah.
All right. And then I guess one of my last questions is, for you, Patrick, what are things you like to do outside of, Voodoo Ranger, gaming? Like, what are some things you like to do?
Yeah, so gaming tends to be pretty centric to everything I do. I tend to be a bit more on the retro side when it comes to hands-on. So I play a lot of pinball. Pinball leagues. I own pinball tables.
Nice.
I'm in the process of building a virtual pinball table. So everything pinball. Outside of that, because you can't spend all day inside, I climb mountains. So I climb 14ers.
Nice.
So that's any mountain peak over 14,000 feet. And so my goal is to bag every 14er in the United States by the time I retire. So that should be doable, I think.
Nice.
We'll find out. So yeah, that's my behind what I do outside of talking about beer and games. Though games are just pretty much all the time, 24/7. So yeah.
Okay, cool. I was gonna say, like, if you ever come out here to Hawaii, you got a place to stay. My wife and I live,
thank you.
A 5-bedroom house. We're right next to Diamond Head Crater, as well as like 2 minutes away from Waikiki Beach.
Damn, dude.
And like the best hiking experience, which is funny. I've taken like a lot of my voice actor friends, like they'll come out here, like Ruben Langdon, who does Dante and Devil May Cry and Ken Street Fighter, is one of my best friends. When he comes out here, like we go to Cocoa Head, and it goes like this. You think it's a hike. It's more of a climb, because it'll start straight, cut here, cut, and then go straight. It's straight vertical. So you get to a point you're literally climbing. And when you get to the top, it's one of, if not the most beautiful, like, view in Hawaii. And then you realize you have to go down it, and you literally have to climb.
It's one of those hikes where you get to a certain point and you're like, well, too far now, can't go back down.
Right?
Gotta keep going. Like, those are the most frustrating ones. You're like, it hurts, but like, I've gone this far.
Right? So like, yeah, if you come out here, I'd love to take you there, because I think that would be awesome. It would be awesome. But
well, likewise, if you ever come to Colorado,
hey,
we're very high in elevation, but we'll just make you drink a lot of water.
Hey, I'm down for it. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with before we go?
No, basically, again, hit up Voodoo Ranger on all socials. It's literally under Voodoo Ranger. If you have any questions for me, whether it comes to like community management, just generally marketing in general, or beer or games, or have a badass pinball arcade in your area that I should visit, hit up Bearded Tortuga on Twitter. And then again on Twitch at Voodoo Ranger Official. Every Tuesday at 3:30, we do a Beer Geek show, and then we play games for a while. And then we do stream throughout the week on occasion with coworkers and community. But would love to have you come hang out.
Awesome. And links for all of that is going to be listed in the description below the podcast, both in the audio and the video formats. And I lied, because I actually have one final question.
Hit me.
It's the most important question. Did you have fun?
I had a blast. I love it. Thank you. It's been amazing.
This has been awesome, man. I'd love to have you back on the show again in the future, if you ever be interested in coming back on. And
definitely, we should straight up just talk about influencers and how they should do their thing in general.
Hey, I'm down. I'm definitely down.
That could go for days.
Well, I mean, it's a great topic because there's so much you can dive into with it. And there's a lot of information I think a lot of influencers could definitely learn.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, so with that being said, that's the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Patrick, you've been an amazing guest. I absolutely loved having you on the show.
Thank you.
And links to all of your social media outlets, as well as Voodoo Ranger, the Twitch link, and everything will be in the description below. And if you're watching this in video format, you're probably watching this on YouTube. And if you're not, you're probably watching it on Twitch. It streams exclusively every week on twitch.tv/Mekel Kasanova, and then re-upload it in video format on youtube.com/Mekel Kasanova. And if you're listening, we're on all major podcasting outlets. So Apple Podcast, I'm going to read it. If you're watching, I'm doing this right here. So Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Pandora. And we actually just got to Amazon Music. Amazon actually reached out to us to pull our podcast on their platform. So that's surreal when you get an email from Amazon. It's like, whoa. But yeah, we're there. And if you want to support the podcast, we have patreon.com/Mekel Kasanova, which goes, whatever you guys invest into me gets reinvested into the podcast, the Twitch streams, and everything like that for better equipment, more stuff, and giveaways and stuff like that. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys for supporting the show. Thank you, Patrick, for coming on the show. And with that being said, Patrick and I are out. We'll catch y'all on the next one.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Hey, did you enjoy this episode of the Kasanova Podcast? Well, I'm sure you did. And since you did, and you're wondering where else you can find it on every podcasting outlet. Yes, that includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Launchpad DM by Podcast One, and so much more. And the only thing I ask of you is if you truly enjoyed it, even if you didn't enjoy it, please leave a rating and tell us what you thought of it, what you like, what you didn't like, and everything in between. And also, if you're looking for video formats of this podcast and many more, you'll be able to find them on youtube.com/Mekel Kasanova, as well as on twitch.tv/Mekel Kasanova, and new episodes every single Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, with that being said, this is Mekel Kasanova, Hawaii's favorite YouTuber. I am signing out. You guys have a great one.